Hey everyone, and welcome to my second Patreon funded how-to video. This month I want to cover the tricky subject of invisible crochet seaming with you. Now I know that there are a lot of methods out there that claim to give you a good invisible seam along the edge of your crochet, but most of them for one reason or another I find quite lacking. Either the stitch itself is quite weak and won't hold up to an awful lot of washing and wearing over time, or the opposite is actually true and it's too strong and gives you a lumpy seam that's uncomfortable to lean against, which is particularly problematic if you're making something for babies or toddlers to wear. I, however, have a solution to both of those, and I'm going to show you it today. It's a stitch that I discovered a couple of years ago that I named the infinity stitch, because that's actually the shape that the stitch is going to make through the fabric that you're going to create for the seam itself. It is strong. It is almost entirely invisible. You can see it a little bit, but it's as good as invisible really. And it's also very, very smooth to the touch, so you can't actually feel the seam itself. It's also not very tricky at all, and it's easy to get the knack of it. So what you actually need to make this is 2 pieces of crochet fabric, and in this case I have made up 2 pieces here already. They're made out of what I would call a double crochet and what Americans would call a single crochet, but you can also use this particular seam on what I would call a treble and what Americans would call a double crochet fabric as well. It's just a matter of doubling up on the stitches, 2 per hole instead of 1 per hole like I'm about to show you here. So what we need to do to set up is to get both of our pieces of fabric and have a look at it and identify the little holes that you can see along the edge of your work. There's going to be a set of holes all the way through your fabric between each of the rows, and we're looking for the ones that are closest to the edge. Not right on the edge, because you've got to actually get into the fabric itself, but you will be able to see a series of dotted holes along the edge of both of your sides. So you want to line those up, and what I do is I stick my index finger between the 2 so that I have full control of both and I'm not going to get them mushed together or mixed up. Then I'm going to start with, in this case, some contrasting yarn, but you can obviously use the correct colour and it'll make it more invisible for you in the end. What I'm going to do here is just take this and cut it through the centre of my seam here and out through the piece of fabric that's farthest away from me. So I've gone through the centre and outwards. So I'm stabbing away from myself, but just through the fabric at the back of my work. I'm going to repeat that process into the corner of the one closest to me. Again, going from the centre outwards. That's the key really. It's always from the centre out on this particular seam. So I'm going to get a press out like that and pull that through. So that gives you this little lopsided looking stitch here that has gone over the fabric furthest away from me and through the fabric that's closest to me. And I'm going to repeat that process once more. I'm going to find the hole closest to my stitches here on the fabric farthest away from me, from the centre, pulling out like this. So I'm creating an infinity 8 type shape all through. And once again, I'm now going to go back into the piece of fabric that's closest to me, from the centre, through the hole and out towards me. You're only going to be stitching through 1 piece of fabric per roll, basically. You're never stitching through both simultaneously like you would with a top stitch or a whip stitch or something. And that's the key, really. It's just ensuring that you're going to be lacing up your 2 pieces of fabric together like that. That's quite loose. You'd want to tighten it a little over every couple of stitches. But the idea is mostly that you're lacing up a pair of boots, really. It's the same exact motion, and it creates a seam that almost kind of fills in the gap like a piece of grouting between the tiles. I hope that proves useful to you guys. If you do decide to give this a go, I'd love to know how you get on, either over on my Patreon page or in the comments below this video. And remember, videos like this are only made possible with your help, so please visit my Patreon page and consider making a pledge. Thanks a million for watching.